Hey, I'm Hilton Carter. I'm a plant stylist, artist, and author. Welcome to my workshop. In this workshop, I'm gonna be teaching you how to create an air plant wreath. Typically, your classic wreath has dried florals, some living florals, but I wanted to switch it up. I wanna put together something that will stay living the entire time, depending on how you care for it, of course. Air plants, given that they don't need soil, can be placed in so many different spots in your homes that other plants can't. So placing these air plants on your wall creates almost like a living piece of art that will be the perfect addition to my space. So I'm gonna be showing you how to pick out the perfect air plants for your wreath, how to make sure you lay it out first, and then how to assemble it. So the first thing I'll do is I get the plants that I need that are gonna set that tone, that vibe off right. So for my plants today, I got a variety of different air plants here. We have some Spanish moss. I love Spanish moss. It is more airy, flows better, consistent and long. It adds a lot of background texture to your air plant wreath. Then we're gonna go to our more robust, more structural air plants. You have your strictas, you have your capitatas. There's some that have like really deep, I call it ruby red, these capitata air plants, just to add that pop of color. Some of them are more smaller and more streamlined, like these guys here, look like a little broom maybe. You have your bigger air plants that are gonna provide that big sort of presence on the wreath as well. So for my ring, I like to pick out something that is going to be impactful for the wreath itself. Now, you can purchase any sort of ring at any craft store in your neighborhood. There are metal options, there are wicker options. I chose a moss-covered ring just in case there are areas where you can peek between the greenery that you provide and you might see maybe an exposed part of the ring. Here, every part will still look lush and very green. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay everything down first so I can get a good understanding of what it's gonna look like before I start tying everything down. So first things first, my base, which is Spanish moss. It gives it a nice wild green look. So once I get that base down, then I'm gonna start applying those other air plants that are gonna make it more structural, more big, more wild. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this big boy here, and I'm gonna place him at the bottom, and I'm gonna place him here because he's a bit more heavy. You want that weight distributed pretty well, and I think having him here gives it that more weighted look versus up here where it just doesn't fit the composition that I already have set in my mind. Now, I didn't draw this out. I'm working just through feeling. That's how it is. You have to just feel it out. I mean, some of you might be planners and you're like, I gotta draw this out first. When it comes to working with air plants and creating air plant wreaths, it's all about what the feeling is for me. And you just wanna make sure that you are giving that wreath a look that is gonna work for you, but also for the balance of that wreath being hung on your wall, on your door, above a mantle, wherever you decide to place it. So now I placed in this other stricta, so now the bottom half of my wreath is more weighted there. And then I think I'm gonna work in some smaller wreaths up top. Give it more of a, I would say, a gradation of air plants when it comes to big to small. So maybe this guy here, given that he has more of that spinier, maybe he gets tucked in there. Maybe that's a look. Then I'll start to apply some of the small ones in here as well. I'm still gonna place one big one here, and then I'll sprinkle in a few small ones somewhere in here. Now, while I do wanna put this here to bring that color there, there's a missing spot, I believe, here that needs a little something. This is where the fun comes in. You're just tucking things in places, seeing if they fit, seeing if they work. I'm gonna add one more. I think I want this guy somewhere in there. Voila! All of this color here, the deep reds, kind of almost dissipating into grays and then into green. I'm really feeling that look. Once I have it all set up and arranged, laid out perfectly, I wanna make sure I know exactly what I did here before I remove all of these air plants. So what I'll do is I'll take out my phone and I'll take a picture of it. Now, after you grab that, you wanna clear up any extra air plants so you don't get confused on what you have applied to your wreath. So I'm gonna clean this up here, and I'm gonna put them around the house somewhere else. Now that we've cleared all the extra air plants out, I'm gonna now start removing what I have on my wreath and then reapplying them and securing them to the actual ring. I'm just gonna put them to the side almost as they are on the wreath. Give myself a little bit more help in understanding what I've already done and how it's going to come together. Now that all my Spanish moss is actually already laid out, I'm not gonna remove it because there's no reason to. I'm gonna start securing it to my actual ring. Now, you can use all different types of string, rope, you can use twine, you can use fishing line like I'm gonna use. The one thing I would say is to stay away from any sort of metal wires. Because this is a living wreath and because you're gonna have to provide it with moisture, water, you don't want that metal wire to rust and that could also kill your air plants. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna start cutting some of my fishing line. So I will cut off a few pieces like so, put them to the side just to make it easier for myself. I'm gonna take my fishing line, as you can see there, and I'm just gonna go underneath of the wreath and secure it to the actual ring. You're gonna probably have to apply a bit more fishing line to secure it. I'm not gonna worry about so many of the extra little pieces of the Spanish moss dangling to the side. I really want something that feels a bit more organic and wild. So now that I have everything tied down, I'm gonna start snipping away all those extra little bits of string just to start the cleaning up process. You don't want any of this sticking out later. You wanna make sure that your ring looks clean, but still a little wild. So you just wanna make sure that you're removing anything that you don't want to be a part of your living art. All right. There we are. Now that I have that down, I'm gonna start to bring in my air plants. Now, if I get a little confused and I'm like, what did I do here? I understand that I put all this, I laid this out kind of like it was. I'm gonna go and grab my phone for that reference photo that I took earlier. Just put it to the side and then start to work everything together. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna weave the fishing line through the bottom cup of your air plant to secure it to your wreath. Because it is the most sturdy, I will say, of your air plant. Bottom of the air plants, that's where kind of your roots system grows to attach itself to trees. So you also can utilize that little area to tie as well. So next I'm gonna take this guy, and as I laid him out, I placed him in and tucked him in just a bit below so that his base is a bit hidden. Grab some string here just to secure it. Again, tucking it underneath and then also through the cup of the air plant to properly secure it. What's important is to make sure, I will say, that it is tight enough to hold it to the ring, but you don't wanna pull it too tight where you're almost making it hard for that foliage, that air plant to develop and grow. Looking at my image here, I'm gonna grab my next friend. I believe it was this guy. Everything's kind of like in this more wavy look. Everyone's whoosh around this side, and you have your whoosh around this side. So you have this energy pushing upwards, you have this energy flowing downwards, and everything just kind of comes together. I think next is my friend here. Sometimes you gotta really work them in there. You gotta really tuck them through there. Don't worry, you're not gonna harm your air plants by maneuver them a little bit aggressively. It's just, you wanna make sure that they are properly secure and that you're getting the look that you desire. I'm gonna start applying a bit more in here just to cover up every little area that I want. It's just gonna be about filling in the rest, adding that pop of color that's gonna be necessary, and then just finishing it off. There we go. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling real good about this one. Now it's time to hang it up. Perfect. Look at that. Loving the way this feels, but in order to make sure it stays this healthy, this vibrant, this green, we have to care for it. When you're talking about care, air plants need humidity, so I'm gonna have to provide that to these air plants by misting them a few days a week. I would take this down from the wall, and I would at least mist this 3 times a week, just to make sure it is getting the right humidity it needs. But I would also, once a week, take it and sit it in water let it soak in there, take it out, and then make sure all of that water comes out of the interior, the cups of those air plants, so it doesn't rot. When it comes to light, of course, you're gonna place it in a spot that gets at least bright, indirect light to medium light, something that isn't going to make those plants dry up and become brown, but of course you wanna avoid direct sun. That is important. Look, we went all the way through it. How to figure out what type of hoop to use and which would be best, what types of air plants would be best for your wreath, and how to then attach them to the wall, how to care for it once you styled it on the wall. Now it's up to you to make one for yourself.